the ithink podcast. Welcome back, everybody. This is a fantastic episode we have today. It's the 14th episode of the ithink podcast, and we're actually doing a remote podcast currently. Our guest is Harry from England, and he's calling in today. Harry, it's so great to catch up with you again. Obviously, it's been a while since we've spoken. But we've stayed in touch, and I met you while I was traveling throughout Latin America. And it's really funny because I met you in not just one, but two countries randomly.
Yeah, one was a total coincidence, huh? Mm-hmm. I was just walking through Minka, and I saw this guy with this very vibrant ginger hair on the back of a motorbike. And I thought, I fucking know that guy. And it was you.
Yes.
It was you, and I think the first time that we met in Costa Rica, we maybe didn't have that much interaction, but I think we became closer when we got to spend a bit more time together in Colombia.
Yeah, definitely, and we were definitely still hanging out in Costa Rica, and Costa Rica was great. It leads me to a topic I wanted to ask you about, because you've been sort of all around the world to some very interesting places, and I've seen you post about it online on some of your different channels. Talk to me about that, and particularly I'm interested in your travels in India, because you've spent a good amount of time there, haven't you?
Yeah, honestly, mate, yeah, I feel, having come back from that now, like come back to the UK and somewhat ended that chapter of backpacking, of traveling.
Yes.
I just feel completely blessed with the entire experience.
Yes.
Like I had some incredible memories over the last few years, and a big chunk of that was in Latin America, where I met you. But you know, the more that you travel around, I feel like you just can't help but feel more and more grateful for everything that you're being bestowed. Like, for instance, spending like so much time away from home in Australia. Like I lived in Australia for. You called me actually when I was living at a farm, and you called me, and I was like, fucking hell, that's so nice of him to call me. And I'd never been away from home for that long before. Like the longest previously was 8 months, and but you're pretty like when you travel like that, you're kind of just having like fun. It's not like a fucking deeply spiritual thing. You're just like having fun, and the spiritual moments and the emotional important moments, they come, but it's not grounded around that. It's the intention isn't that when you start off. Whereas,
I completely agree with you.
But like they still happen to you. And then when I went to India, like, so I'd been to India already. I went in 2023 for 2 months, and I fucking hated it. I just I just couldn't handle it.
Why?
I found it all too intense. I found the people too intense. It was a sensory overload, and I couldn't handle it. And I'd been warned about this, but it was never something that I thought would happen to me.
Where were you that time, the first time you went in India?
I was everywhere. Like, I wouldn't bore you with the details, but like I just tried to do too much at once. And like, newsflash, India's a big country.
Yeah, it's massive.
So I was just traveling around all the time. I never felt settled. Whereas the second time that I went, which was in January of this year, I went with a clear intention. Like, I wanted to go. I wanted to do yoga teacher training, like do the thing that everyone bloody does when they go to India. But there's a reason why they do it, because the quality is amazing.
Yeah,
like, it's where it started.
Exactly.
And it's fucking cheap. Let's not lie. Like, it's
really I didn't know. Is it compared to Latin America? Is it similar? Or?
Nah, it's cheaper than that.
Cheaper than Latin America, really?
Oh wow. Yeah, and the food is like kilometers better.
Really?
But anyway, like I went to India with like a very clear intention going in. Just like, surrender to it. Surrender to the culture. I was reading Shantaram at the time, so like ticking off all the cliches, yoga teacher training, Shantaram. Did all of that shit, and I something in that book really stuck with me. The character Carla said to Lynn, she was like, when you in India, you have to surrender. You have to surrender to it. And I thought, yeah, you do. Like, but that's, you have to do it with traveling in general, right? Like,
Yes.
you have to surrender, like, to whatever situation you're in, because it's not your culture, it's not your country, and ultimately, if you have resistance to that, that's exactly what you're going to feel on the other side, and it's exactly what I felt the first time that I went there. But the second time around, I just felt such warmth and
Yes.
love from the people.
What do you
but
think changed? Was it kind of your mentality about it that changed, or the situation itself?
It is probably like a bit of both, but
Yeah.
the mentality shift was huge because I stopped thinking about me like as a oh god, why aren't people doing this the way that I know and the way that I expect them to?
Yeah.
That's such like it's a real egotistical way of looking at it, I guess, because you're basically thinking about yourself and expecting things to be the way that you want them to be. And
Yes.
when you travel, it's never the way you want it to be. Like, that's the point. Like, it's meant to be difficult at times.
Yes.
It's not always difficult. Like,
Yeah,
it depends on
it's,
where you go.
Yeah, it's traveling in a lot of ways. I see it sort of like a psychedelic trip where it's kind of not meant to be. Well, okay, when you go on a vacation, that's meant to be relaxing and enjoyable. But if you're traveling, it's a lot of the time it will be hard. Like especially, if you're not rich or something, and you're just kind of backpacking, and it's like there are a lot of situations that are really, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone and getting out in the world. And I'm sorry, do you see the fan? This like event.
Tell that motherfucker away.
But regardless, what I was saying is that like with the traveling thing, it's like it's really a way to broaden your mind, and I would encourage anyone to travel. And you just learn so much about the world, and a lot of the times you can do it for cheaper than you would imagine if you do it smartly. And then I wanted to ask you about Australia, because believe it or not, so this is very interesting to me. My podcast, the biggest audience is in the US, but number 2 is UK, and then number 3 is Australia. So, and I always am interested in content from the UK and from different places like Australia. As a British person, when you went to Australia, did you encounter any? Was it easy because you lived there for quite a while? Were the local people sort of open to you, or how did that go? Did they have any prejudice to you because you're British?
Definitely, but that's
Really?
kind of a banter thing. Like, it's not anything serious. It's just like Aussies and Brits have a rivalry.
Yeah.
So much
Tell
more
me about that.
Much more than the US and the UK do. Well, if I was to tell you about that, we'd be digging deep into colonial past. So
Yeah.
not to belittle that, but let's not do that for now.
Yeah.
It was obviously a bad
course.
thing. We know all that. But
I don't mean to dig in, but you're referring to how Australia was a prison colony.
Yeah, and also just a British colony. So I think there's just a inherent resentment
Yeah. that makes
towards
sense.
British culture, but also not at the same time, because there's so much commonality. We also share a lot of the same humor. Little
Yeah, I
things
can
we drive
imagine.
on the same side of a road. We talk the same
Yeah.
language. We kind of look the same. They're probably blonder, more tanned, slightly better.
Yeah,
looking.
they are more tanned. Is that spray tan? I've noticed a lot of Australian influencers are so tanned. So it's all real.
I
you're
think that's
saying?
an influencer thing rather than
Okay.
Australia.
Oh my
but
gosh.
Honestly, man, Australia is a great country. It really
Yeah.
is. And going there was such a shift from what I'd done before in terms of travel, because people are not going there to travel. A lot of the time they're going there to work and to find some kind of stability. and they still want the sense of adventure, but it's not the same, and as the type of travel that I'd become used to. So it was a real kick in the balls when I got there, because I wasn't used to it, and like whenever you don't have the experience of doing the thing, then you can feel quite comfortable within that space. So
yeah,
I struggled for the first, when you called me actually, I was in a point of difficulty, I'd say. Like I was just struggling. Like ultimately what it boiled down to was the fact that I was quite lonely. Like I'm somebody that loves connection. Like I love I'm just fascinated by like people and getting to know people, especially from different countries and cultures. But
of course,
and you get that all the time when you backpack, because you see people in hostels and they just will give themselves to you. But
yeah, it's
in
really
everyday
fascinating.
life, people do not do that, and I'm seeing that in my current life at the moment. Like that's just not the way that people work most of the time. It's a real blessing to find people like yourself who will be able to share like a very intimate conversation with, but that shit doesn't happen for most people. So
Yeah,
I feel kind of blessed to have had that for a couple of years of like traditional backpacking, but actually living in a different country, speaking to people and understanding that the process of getting to know others is slower, and that doesn't detract from how wonderful it can be.
What was the thing that shocked you most about Australian culture?
What was the thing that struck me most? I almost don't want to say it. I thought that my initial thing was that I said earlier that Australians had a similar sense of humour to us, but I was in Western Australia and I wasn't in Perth, and Perth is the only major city in Western Australia.
Yeah.
So I was out like relatively in the sticks, let's be honest. But
you mean sort of in the countryside?
Yeah, but I think what shocked me was that people weren't as open as what I'd been used to.
Yeah.
But then I realised like people in England are exactly the same. There's no difference. It's just I've been in this bubble for such a long time of thinking everyone acts like this. Like this is normal, like the way that people interact with one another. Like you tell me something, like you share vulnerability with me, something that's happened to you in your life, and I'll share something back.
Of course.
That ain't how most people operate. And I think when I went to Australia, that's the thing that shocked me the most. But that's not like an Australian thing. That's more of like that's maybe a human thing. A human thing, like a Western thing in particular.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, to be honest. You know, and so when you were in Australia, you mentioned that you find the culture to be similar to the British culture, or no, you meant we're the same. You're the same in the sense that, like, in the human sort of way. But you know, I do find that very fascinating. So Australia obviously is very far from everything else. Like, especially from us, it's super far. It's like halfway around the world, you know, in the Pacific Ocean. And so a lot of Americans are curious about Australia. And, you know, do you think in Australia, living there, you guys, like in Australia, are they up to date? I know that sounds like a stupid question, but up to date in terms of like, does it feel like a modern country? Yes, or just in terms of industry, totally.
And artistically, I think they're in many ways like above and beyond what most Western countries are. They've got such a rich artistry in the culture, but the culture is like somewhat of a sticking point for like people that travel there. And this is kind of a joke, but also not. It's like Australia has no culture. It's like a lifestyle-driven place, and the culture from Australia comes from like the deep indigenous roots.
Okay.
But Australia, like that we know, for the most part, when you think about it, it's detached from that quite a lot.
100%. And okay, tell me. So you just mentioned the sort of cliche that Australia has no culture. What about it made me think, like, I've never heard of Australian food. Like there are no Australian restaurants anywhere. What is Australian food? Like what does the diet consist of?
But Australian food is fucking amazing. Like it
What
is
is it?
amazing. Like, but it's everything. It's like what type of food do you get in London? Well, you get everything. It's at such a high quality. The thing is about Australia is that it's such an attractive place to live because people from around the world will want to go there. A, because the wages are good. B, because the lifestyle's great. And thirdly, the weather's sick.
What is
For the most part.
what would you say like the is there any dish that you would say is like a staple there, or is it just everything?
Yeah, chicken
Or is it
parmy.
like very British
Nah,
as
chicken
well?
palmy.
Chicken parmy? What's that?
For sure. It's like fried breadcrumbed chicken breast
Wow.
with tomato sauce over the top. It's
Okay.
like pure heart disease, but it's delicious.
100%.
I love that that's the thing that I went for. Honestly, like Australian food is great. And I'm not saying for 1 minute for like there is no culture on Australia. It's just that's not what it's known for. Like people don't hold up Australian culture to the same degree that they would Italian. You know.
Yeah, no, I think that's something fascinating about America. I'm not sure if in other countries as well, or many other countries, but I'd assume so, based off what I've seen, is that we sort of have a few cultures because of like you mentioned Italian. It's like most of us are from like a few not most of us, but a lot of us, the history, it's like Italian, Irish, are some of the primary ones. So we do focus on those cultures, like all restaurants and everything. But also we have like restaurants from everywhere, like Mexican. Even I saw a Chilean restaurant the other day in Boston, or just Indian. I could go on and on, but I've never seen an Australian restaurant. So that I was just thinking like,
Yeah, but America's a country of immigrants, so you're gonna get
Yes.
like cuisine from all over the world, and Mexican culture, like Mexican. That is, you've just said Irish,
I love
Italian.
Mexican food.
Mexican is probably more prominent in America than both of them, and Japanese as well, and Korean. Like
Yeah.
all it, especially on the West Coast for those three that I've just mentioned. But
Have you been? I remember vaguely you went to LA once.
yeah, on a football tour when I was
Wow.
like 15.
And as a man from England going to LA, did you notice what shocked you most going to LA being from England?
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to give you a good answer. It was so long ago, and I was just swept up in like the fun of like being away with my friends when I was 15 years old and wanting to fuck around. Like it wasn't anything more than that. I wasn't observant about stuff that was going on. I just wanted to get in
100%.
trouble.
Yeah, and okay, so I have a list here of some British slang which has gone around, the culture recently, and I've been curious about it because I've noticed British slang making like a big what's it called? Like it's gotten popular recently in America because a lot of UK rappers have gotten popular recently in
Right,
America.
oh God, you might be asking the wrong person with this, but shoot.
Okay. What is a peng? P-E-N-G.
Oh,
Peng?
like a painting. That's like a fit bird, like a really good looking. Oh, it's not necessarily a girl, but like it's just if you're really good looking, like a painting.
Okay. Peak.
Peak's kind of shit. Like say for instance, this podcast didn't go well.
Yeah.
I might be like to you afterwards. Ben, mate, that was kind of peak.
Is that new or has that been out?
Nah, people
Okay.
have been saying that for years.
How about bear?
Bear. Yeah, if bear's like a way to exaggerate something. Like if we
Yeah.
were laughing a lot, it would be bear funny.
Bear funny. I've never heard any of these. Okay, I've heard this one. Mandem.
Mandem. That's like the gang. That's the
The
boys.
gang. The boys.
But not for me. Like I wouldn't be able. I'm not. I'm definitely not. If I said mandem, I'd be like, really?
Lane.
Leng. You know what? I hear that all the time. And like,
Yeah.
Leng. If that's Lang, people will say like, yeah, that's Lang. I'm like, I don't actually know how to define that.
It's so funny. Um, okay, waste man.
I was like a bit of a dickhead, but like more than a dickhead. Just
Okay.
somebody's a waste man. If somebody's a waste man, like you're just acting like a twat. Like
Okay.
maybe, but also it can be like this guy's been getting a bit too busy, or
Yeah.
and he's just acting like a waste man. But usually it's more based around their behaviour. Like if
Okay.
you're acting like a twat, then yeah, you're acting like a waste man. Shut up.
Okay. So, chuffed. That's interesting.
Chuffed. That's a massive detour from like the words that you've already used. Chuffed.
Have
If you're
never
chuffed
heard
with something,
this.
you're just like you're pretty pleased.
Okay, chuffed.
I use that more than I do any of these others. I think that says a lot about me.
Really, this is so funny, Harry, because I've genuinely I thought I knew a little something about England, but I've actually been to England like twice to London, but I've never heard most of these words. Like I've never heard chuffed, or maybe I heard it, but I've just never
People
understood.
wouldn't say this stuff with tourists. It's
Yeah.
like when you travel, it's quite funny. Like I would be hanging out with like a load of Europeans for a week, and then I'd meet a British person, and I'd be like, I can kind of relax into like a very natural lingo where I can be dropping in these
That's
words.
crazy.
And they'll know exactly what I mean. I don't need
You
to
guys have
dilute
like
it.
a secret code almost.
Well, the world
Because no
speaks
Americans
English,
know what
so
chuffed
like
means. I
we
guarantee
have
you.
nowhere to hide. That's the problem with English being the universal language, is that you can't like gossip and bitch about people, which is always a shame.
I swear, like the English slang is so funny to me because it's like so coded. It's like we just can't tell at all what you're saying. Okay, butters.
Oh, if somebody's ugly,
Okay,
but it's always to do with appearance.
okay.
Or you could get some food that's pretty butters.
Gassed.
Gassed. That means you're excited.
Excited. Like gassed up. We have that too.
Gassed up. Yeah. That
Um,
one's fairly self-explanatory, I feel.
Yeah, I think so. Crepes.
Shoes.
Shoes. Okay.
But like
Ning.
sneakers, I guess.
Sneakers.
Yeah.
Ning. Nang.
Neng. Not a clue, mate. Neng and Lang, they're the ones that I've
I
stumbled
have
on.
a AI explanation here. It says Nang means awesome or cool. Less common now, but still heard. Okay. Mug.
A mug. If you're a mug, then you are a twat. Like if somebody calls you a mug, then you're just like a bit of an idiot. You're acting
Yeah.
like a fool.
Wow.
Yeah. Or you can get mugged off as well, which is different. Because if you're mugged off, means you've been kind of made to be like a fool, or you're
Yeah.
just maybe you just have acted like one.
Okay, this is one that we use in American culture, and we use it from like the Italian culture, but it might have a different meaning in England. So I'm curious, and I think you guys use it more than us. Don, D-O-N.
Don. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it kind of has roots in Latino culture, doesn't it? But if you're a Don, it means that you're the man.
Okay.
Which is
All
different
right.
from Latino culture. Latino's culture is obviously like cartel leader or whatnot.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That was a fun segment.
Fun.
Going over this.
I'm glad that I knew so many.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating to me. But British culture in general is very fascinating to me, and I think to a lot of my audience as well. Okay, one thing which we have a cliche or stereotype is pickpocketing. You know,
What?
since Oliver Twist and everything, like that's always been what we think when we
Are
go
you
to
kidding
London.
me?
There's
That's a
organized
cliche.
gangs of 12-year-old pickpockets wearing trench coats. You know.
That is some Victorian England. That's not the reality. People pickpocket, yeah, for sure. But in London, nowadays, people don't just pickpocket. Like, this is the case in a lot of cities. Like, you'll just be, like, on the street taking a picture and some cunt's going to, like, drive past on a bike and just nick your phone, which is savage. But, yeah, world we live in.
Yeah, that's wild. So... Okay, I wanted to ask you, do you know the actor Will Ferrell, American comedian? Yeah. Okay. Have you seen his movie called Holmes and Watson?
No, with, what's his name? From Step Brothers.
Yes, yeah.
I can't believe I'm reducing him to that. He's actually a great actor, that guy. But no, I haven't seen it. I'm aware of it. Why?
It's so funny because they use British accents, so they're in Victorian. No, it's not Victorian. When was Holmes?
John C. Reilly.
1800s. Okay, I didn't even know that guy's name. But whenever Sherlock Holmes took place, I think it's like 1800s. Yeah, Victorian era England, and in this movie it's like what's the word when it's like what's that word for a piece which is like meant to take place in the past?
Like a period piece?
A period piece, exactly. So it's a period piece and very comedic, and but I thought maybe English people would think it's a bad accent, but I thought it was very convincing because they were both maintain this accent.
No, it won't be. Like, honestly, I'm just going to let you into a little cultural secret. Americans cannot do English accents. No, I think so. This is something interesting that I heard recently. When English people are talking, they talk from the back of their throat.
Yes.
When Australian people are talking, they talk from like the chamber.
Yes.
And when American people are talking, it's from like the front. So I think it's easier to project.
You're right.
It's easier to project like outwards, which is why it's harder for American people to do the reverse.
Would you permit me to attempt an accent?
Sure.
Okay.
Of course, always.
So what you mentioned in terms of the throat, I'm gonna try to apply that, but because I think you're right. Like, okay, give me like a sentence to say.
How you doing, mate?
How you doing, mate?
Try again.
How you doing, mate?
Okay. You sound like you could end up in a mental hospital somewhere. But
I sort of think that I'd really like to attempt to improve my British speaking capabilities just sort of a bit. But regardless, it's there was sort of a mug in the street that I had encountered, and it was a bit sort of vaguely reminiscent of something I had observed while a lang and a twat were sort of entangled in a customary association of sorts. But
at this point, it's just like word salad.
Oh my gosh.
At certain points there, regardless, you said capabilities at the start of capabilities, but it's fucking hard to do like a British accent for American people. I'm telling you, like it's not easy. So most Americans can't do it. Emma Stone can. Meryl Streep can.
Yeah, wait, they do it for the movies, right?
They do it for the movies, but even
that's crazy.
I saw Timothy Chalamet doing one in The King.
Yeah, he could probably do anything.
No, but his is good. It's good.
Yeah.
Like, I know that he's not English. Like, I can tell. I think we probably hold it to a higher esteem because, like, for instance, if I was to do a generic American accent,
can you do it?
I think it's like if I was to do some kind of generic American accent.
I love it.
I don't really know where I'm from, like what type of
You're so good at
I
it.
grew up in. But the difference is
what the heck?
I grew up on American culture. Like I'm so
That's
Americanized.
Crazy.
But I grew up on American culture. I have always listened to American artists. I've always watched American TV shows. I remember and my friend Spoons, we were doing like New York, New Jersey accents with you.
No, I remember your friend Spoons.
Spoons has some amazing accents, also English, but we're just generally, I think we're quite good at imitating as a culture. Like we're the three main things that Britain export are financial services,
Really?
weapons,
Weapons.
and the arts.
The arts. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
we're not known for that now, but like especially artistically for such a small island,
Yeah,
we've
by
always had
far.
like a rich history of being able to perform. I
Yeah,
guess.
pretty much so many of the most popular artists in America were British, and like a lot of the time we don't even realize that. Like, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones,
Led
Queen.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, I didn't even know Led Zeppelin was British.
Yeah.
Queen. You have people like Depeche Mode was British, and all of these different bands like
Nowadays,
the
like
Smiths.
Adele and Ed Sheeran,
Oh, yeah, Adele.
and these people, and
Amy Winehouse.
Coldplay. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know, but there's I don't know what that is. I think that's culture right there. Like
Yes.
the fact that we can, for such a small place, we can produce such an enormous amount of talent.
Mm-hmm.
That can only speak to like for the rich cultural history that we have in the country, and sometimes
Yes.
it gets belittled down to 1 second. This shit, like we're a drinking culture, which we are. Like we are a drinking culture, but we're not just that. Like we've I guess like barged our way into the world because of something, greed, and at times like evil. Not that that's funny, but kind of have to laugh about it sometimes. But
Yeah, we have to laugh about the.
but
the
we have
past
like an amazingly talented pool of people living on this island, and
Yes.
I, for one, am extremely proud of that.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, that's great. And so Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer has obviously been in the news a lot. Like, are you comfortable sharing your opinion on him? And like, so I know the political parties vaguely. We're familiar with it. Like, so in America we have sort of conservative and liberal, and then you have the Tory and the Labour Party there. Or are those the same? No.
So it's not a two-party system
Okay.
in the same way
there
that
are
America
multiple
is.
parties.
There are multiple parties, yeah, but to varying degrees of power and influence. And traditionally, it's been between those two, but predominantly, there's always been like a Tory stronghold in the country. We're a conservative country. I remember my
Really?
history teacher told me once. This is funny. It wasn't meant to be serious, but he was like, "There's going to be an 1,000-year Tory Reich because." It just feels like we're always going to vote these bastards into power. And Keir Starmer is a bit of a...
Is he a Tory or Labour?
I don't know. He's kind of got like... He's Labour, but he's got the personality of a flip-flop. Like, he's not an
Okay.
inspiring leader at all. And to a certain degree, I've kind of buried my head in the sand politically for a number of years. I used to care about
Yes.
it quite a lot, but I think I've become quite disillusioned.
I think
But
that's really
something
mature.
Wow,
Yeah,
to
no,
a
I
degree.
genuinely think so, Harry. For me, that played a huge part in helping my mental health was when I stopped watching the news and like paying attention to political things or things outside of my circle of control, because a lot of the time, like, those things just get us all anxious and worried, and that energy is just going into the abyss at the end of the day. So it's like, it is very wise and mature of you to take a step back, and it's difficult for a lot of people to do because it's so baked into us in our culture to just be feeding into the
Especially your culture, like
Yeah.
American culture.
Tell me
it's
about
a reality
that.
show. Like
Do you-
it's the whole world sees it as that, though. It's not serious anymore. Like
Do you
it's
think
just
that-
this.
Sorry,
It's a
go on,
reality
go on.
show. Like your
Yeah.
president is an entertainer. He used to host The Apprentice. Like he's a reality TV star, and he's now the president. So everything is kind of
Yes.
molded in his image, and you're seeing that politically. The debates this year are just farcical.
Yes, he's
And the
injected
way-
the culture with
For the
a lot.
last few years, whether that's with Hillary Clinton, Biden, Kamala Harris. Like it's all just like this show. It's not serious anymore, and I think that's the way that people are kind of viewing America, because that's what we see.
I think you're totally right about that, and I would say that, Trump is sort of, in my opinion, he's not the cause, he's the symptom of something that's sort of been, with our political culture, with everything and everything like that. I think we can never blame it on just one man, because it's like a lot of people in America, they say that all of this bad stuff or whatever bad stuff is the fault of one man. It's an easy way to take blame off of just overall our culture has been very like sensationalized, and like we glorify certain things like, violence we glorify all the time, like, and that's a whole other discussion. But in terms of the political wing of things, I'm not a political person myself, but I remember I was so worried about politics for a while, and I would say Biden really did worry me as well. Like during the pandemic, he was I don't want to insult him or like hate on him or something, but I'm saying like I felt like our freedoms were sort of limited severely, and like we had to get all these vaccinations and whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But regardless, and now a lot of things Trump is doing, it's bad as well, and obviously, he has a real desire for control and power, but it's our fault for giving him that. So it's like, it's everyone. It's also our fault for giving Biden power last time. So it's like all of us together, our decisions, because it is a democracy at the end of the day.
It is.
Yeah. Sorry, what I was saying on that point. Yes, the violence in our culture. It's something that I wanted to talk about recently, because obviously America is known for sort of very violent events recently. I don't have to say specifically, but stuff that's public, very, it makes you scared to go out in public because something could happen. So it's I was thinking about that, and a lot of it stems from how many times, I'm not saying I think it has different causes, but how many times, I'm not saying this is the only cause of that, but in a movie, the movies that we see, it's how many times is the hero of the movie killing people? A lot of them in Hollywood. And I know that sometimes it's justified or whatever, but still they're playing inspiring thematic music while they're showing John Wick or whoever just mowing down a bunch of people, and it's we say that we don't want the violence, but then all of our attention and dollars goes towards sort of very, very violent productions. That's just my opinion. I would say obviously there are other reasons involved with why those things happen, but
it is if we're told to believe a certain way, and I think we've been told to believe that for such a long time that we're and this goes back to the political thing that you mentioned. It's we've been systematically polarized against one another, and if we don't believe in what somebody says, then I think we're just gonna want to fucking disagree with them. And for some people, we'll have a discussion about it, but for a lot of people, they'll start beating them up, or
you're totally right,
get a fucking gun out. And I think you see this most in America, because, as I said, America's just become this reality show. It's not, it almost doesn't feel real anymore. You see these things on the TV, 20 kids killed in a school shooting. You're like, oh, that's sad. And, it's terrible that it's become belittled to that point.
It is. Yeah, I wouldn't send my kids to a school awful. Here.
And then you forget about it, an hour later. Mm-hmm. Because we've become accustomed to this. But I think that is a cultural thing that we can undo. I don't believe that we have to always think the negative. Like, we're told
You're right.
we're drawn towards negativity, but how much of that is just what we're fed?
You're totally right, Harry. And I love this line of thought you're going down, because it's something I talk about all the time on my podcast. And it's like, okay, humans throughout history, we've been very tribalistic and like unnecessarily, like, just like you said, we have this addiction to our opinion where it's like we get into arguments and then we're so eager to defend our opinion as a fact that we will lie or do whatever we have to do to verbally belittle the person, whatever, to dunk on our opponent, right? Because we see it as an opponent. But that's like a mentality problem that a lot of people have, and I've had that in the past too. But it's totally something you can recover from, where you're not so attached to your opinions, where it's more like you're open to learning or having your opinion changed, and going into any conversation like that, then you don't feel resentful when your opinion is challenged, like, because you're not your opinion. So it's a separation a lot of people don't have, where they can't separate like their opinion about something from their identity, and they get very offended, and the other person is offending them because they're also tied to their opinion, so they're willing to insult someone just to, have their win the debate or whatever. It's like, I totally agree with you, and I think a lot of people will tell me, like, Ben, this is just human nature. It's never gonna change. Just deal with it. And like, yeah, totally, I'm dealing with it, and like, I encourage everyone to just be stoic and deal with whatever it is. But I am also optimistic that eventually enough people will sort of evolve emotionally to the point where it will be much less tension and fighting, and we can actually hope to achieve a peaceful kind of future.
I mean, you love to think so, don't you?
Yeah, I would. I think if everyone thought that, then we would already be there, and it's like a thought pattern. And like, I wanted to ask
honestly,
you,
Matt, sorry to just to interject like a second there. I think, like, for instance, if you're getting in like a fight with somebody,
yeah,
like, often, the way to diffuse that situation is by like, look, man, not wanting to stir up any trouble here.
yes,
And that is not always going to work. I'm not so naive to think that that's just the way that things operate. I guess what I'm trying to say is,
it's the best way to handle it.
Yeah, like, kindness can kill
Yeah.
hate, and if we're just a little bit kinder and more thoughtful and empathetic towards one another, I really think that we'd be like a happier culture. But we're not told that that's a possibility. We're told that that's naive and it's douchey and shut the fuck up. Like, you're an idealist.
You're completely right.
Whereas, no, like, I'm sorry, but like, the way that we have been conditioned over the last few years is to think that our identity is based on our opinions. Like,
Yeah, it's
I see so
crazy.
many people nowadays coming towards me, and I think this is fucking incredible. Like, people, not all the time, but like, people will come up to me and within the first few sentences they'll tell me that they have, for instance, ADHD, and I'm like, what? Hold on, like, ADHD? But people have always had ADHD, like, throughout in my childhood. I remember like the kids in school and whatnot, and now everyone seems to have it. And like, the fact that it's become like this open to a degree that I've met a few of these people who, like, it's like the opening sentence that they're using, like, oh my god, no, that's just my ADHD. And I think it speaks to, it's like, in microcosm, it kind of speaks to this idea that we have an identity crisis in our culture, and we no longer, like, in the Western world, especially in England, like, we're a godless country now, and in the West we don't have a religion to bind us together. We only have ourselves and what we are what we experience, we are what we see. So like, what we see online or what we watch or what we interact with becomes our identity. And if people are seeing this stuff all the time, especially on things like this, then they're going to start believing that what they see is who they are. But no, like, my God, we've become pretty stuck in that
Yes.
reality at the moment. But I don't know. I am like a perpetual optimist, but I
Yeah.
feel like that can be undone through
Yeah.
education.
Yes, 100%. And you're not you're not a hopeless optimist. You are a
No.
perpetual optimist, but there is hope involved. And I think just being optimistic in general, it increases your happiness in life. So it's like, it's a cheat code, really. Especially,
It totally is, mate.
I tell it to a lot of people who have been coming to me saying that they're, lost in their emotions or dealing with depression and anxiety. And just, it sounds so much easier said than done, which it is, because I was telling myself this for years and I just never did it. And I guess just that repetition for years, eventually I was like, my mind was fed up with, I tell people all the time, right? Like, I audited my life like it was a failing business, and then I scaled my mindset to match my ambition, because my ambition was always there. It was just a mindset shift. So first I audited my life, and then I scaled my mindset to match my ambition. And I think that's sort of a cheat code for kind of anyone who is struggling with, mental health issues, or just lost in terms of like feeling tired or feeling anxious or whatever it is. And I love what you said about the societal identity crisis. It's totally accurate, I think. And something I wanted to ask you about is this idea you brought up, how you said our culture, and you were referencing not just England but America as well,
Western culture.
Yeah, and Western, and even now I would venture to say that we are living in the first era of the global culture, where now, because of the internet, like, I'm talking to people in India, and like just all over the world, and it's like they're all able to understand what we're saying and have a dialogue with us, and everything's up to date. And it's like, especially with social media, etc., and it's like, how crazy is it, Harry, that when you zoom out and like realize that if you look at the history of the universe as far as we know, because we don't know that much, but billions and trillions of years or whatever. Let me just quickly fact check myself. How old is the universe? Whatever the universe is.
Fucking
right?
old is the answer.
So
too old.
Approximately
for our comprehension.
13.8 billion years, and as far as we know,
Yeah.
and so 13.8 billion years. We're alive right now. I was born in 2003. I think maybe, let me guess, you were born in 1996.
Nice.
Is that correct?
That's correct. 96
Wow.
as well was a powerful. Hold on.
That's fire. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so regardless, right, we're born in such a small window of time that is the first time in the history of 13.8 billion years where we can be having a conversation live across the fucking ocean, looking at each other at the same time with crystal
magic.
clear audio, no latency, and we're gonna put it out as a podcast, and it's like, yo, like, is that a coincidence, or is there something else at play here?
Oh, I don't know. That's like a huge question. I just think it's like amazing to remark on how absolutely beautiful that is. Like, we live in this age of connection, and yet we're probably less connected than we ever have been to ourselves and to others, and not everyone, of course, but my God, I think that we don't realise how lucky we are. Like,
Yes.
you realise this when you travel. How fucking lucky are we? Like, we can just I can go to New Delhi and hang out with a couple of my now friends from the city.
Yeah.
What the
It's
fuck kind of...
fascinating.
who am I? Am I an explorer? Am I like a...
You are.
Well, not in that sense, not in the sense that I'm trying to mean, but like, am I like a great businessman? No. Am I a politician? No. But yeah, I get to do this, and I'm just like an ordinary person.
Yes.
It's this. We live in a really like remarkable time of globalization, and globalization is complicated. And you were saying earlier about like we have this global culture in many ways, but like we're also like very very different people, like from culture to culture, and there will always be clashes. Like even within
Yeah.
uh, even within countries, like you see this in Southeast Asia. There's like a shit ton of racism throughout Southeast Asia
Colorism.
between people from neighboring countries, and even though they might share like similar values in the same way that we do in Europe, they still at times like hate one another, and I think
Yeah.
that is something that's kind of inherent in us.
I think we can get over it though, because I think it's just
Definitely.
it's the natural progression of everything, right? So it's like humans, we started off, we spread out throughout the world, and then we got in different pockets and got separated for a long time, and that's how we became like look different or whatever, and then now we're connecting again. So eventually, I think just naturally it will all just be like totally normal, and like even we'll meet aliens, I think. So and then we'll incorporate them into our
That would
society,
fuck
and
shit
then
up
yeah.
massively. People would freak out.
But
I'd
I
freak
think
out.
a lot of people are waking up. You know, I see it more and more. Like, there's overwhelming amount of people, even in, the most chaotic reality show country in the world. There's a lot of people who are like, just like, yo, like, we're done with the tribalism and politics and like the arguing and the unnecessary stuff. We just want to all like work together to accomplish our goals. Because you know, we have a lot of big goals. One of my big goals personally involves space and pursuing outer space. What is your opinion on that? Because there are a lot of varied opinions, especially now. Like, should we be diverting these resources towards something on Earth, or what's your opinion on outer space travel?
Well, I'm a sci-fi nut, so
Yeah.
for me, it's like a tantalizing idea,
Yes.
and my God, it would be incredible. Like if something like
It
that
would.
happened, it would be incredible. But it's hard to detach myself from how many issues there are in the world at the moment, and
Yeah.
maybe our focus should be more aligned with that. But don't get me wrong, from purely like an optics point of view, how fucking cool would it be if like we were able to colonize another country? A country, planet, and we've already done that in England.
I can edit that out if you want, or
No,
edit
don't,
this out.
because it's fine. Like
Yeah.
it's not meant to be perfect, but we are like a species who clearly likes to branch out. So you
Yes.
expect it to happen at some point, right? But
Yeah, I think naturally,
But of course,
assuming
it's an
we don't get
amazing
wiped
idea,
out by
man.
an asteroid.
we grew up on sci-fi. How is it not like something?
Yes.
How is it not a thrilling thought? Obviously, it is.
Yeah,
But
and I
like,
think
the practicality is a different issue.
the main argument I get when I bring it up is that we could be putting the money into other things like to fix certain issues on Earth, and the way I see it is sort of, if you look historically, the way that we've always gotten less hunger, less issues is and less etc. is radically pursuing new technology, because new technology opens the door for making things much easier, and that can solve lots of the issues we have, such as agricultural methods and like things like that to produce more food, or also plant-based proteins and like things like this. And I really am a big believer in AI. I utilize AI for almost everything I do. And I think that we can solve a lot of the issues like world hunger, even like world peace, I would venture to say, with AI.
What about purpose?
Purpose. Purpose would be. Oh, are you saying like if we have AI doing everything, what's the purpose of regular people going to be? I think we're going to have to broaden our idea of what purpose means, or like what exactly, like we'll have to broaden that, because if the traditional work is accomplished by machines, then maybe we'll figure out something we want to do more than that traditional work. And like maybe thinking of something or figuring something else out. One problem I think we're still very far from figuring out, regardless of how much AI we get, is the primary question, the inherent question of life, you know, why we exist in the first place. And I think that by pursuing certain AI technology along with quantum computing, we'll be able to finally answer that question. Where do we come from? Why do we exist? Why does the universe exist?
Yeah, we might be able to answer it scientifically, but I think ultimately, like, the answer is spiritual. We just do.
What do you mean?
We exist, and there's nothing else to it. We just kind of have to.
But how could there be something and not nothing?
But those type of questions are like so paradoxical to a point where it almost belittles our existence. But like we're here. Like we just said, you are in Chicago. You're in Chicago.
Boston. Yes.
And I am like on the outskirts of London. We're having a conversation over 2 bits of metal that have this LED
crazy.
screen. Why do we need to fucking know? Like if the universe started for a specific reason, it would be fascinating to know, in the same way that exploring space would. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Like I think we are just.
I think it does. Well, I'll offer you my answer.
Go on.
Like, why do we need to know? Well, we don't need to, but for me personally, I want to know, like, extremely much. So it's sort of like, I see things with mystery has always been my favorite genre. It excites me beyond anything else when I can be invested in some sort of mystery and try to figure out myself who did it, you know, who done it, how did this happen. One of the mysteries that first really grabbed my attention was that plane which went missing back in 2014, the Malaysian Airlines plane. It left from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia on the route to China, and it disappeared completely along with all of the passengers. And they never found identified positive wreckage or any bodies or any trace. It went off the map. All the electronics got shut off by something while it was still in the air, and then some more traditional, robust radar system picked it up, still flying. All of the computers had been shut off, and it left its course, and then it disappears into thin air. And I thought, you know, a lot of people in society, I was very young when it happened, but I was watching it on TV like play out, and a lot of people in society sort of just moved on, like after like a year or whatever. But I've never been able to get over it. I need to know why. I say I need to, but it's like I get the same urge as I get to eat food from, like, I have to fucking figure it out, Harry. It's like, where could the plane have gone? Do you remember when this plane went missing?
Yeah, totally. But like, I think what you're speaking to here is we love stories in our culture.
Yes.
Because for thousands of years, we've been fascinated by these stories, from like the epic of Gilgamesh.
Yes.
Down to what was the last Oscar winner? Anora. Like all and everything in between. I think we're a society, a global society, that is fascinated with telling stories. So like when we hear like a mystery, we love genre as well. Like the idea of going to space, we love sci-fi.
Yes.
But we love mysteries as well. Like the idea of, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, like, let's figure it out, Harry. Let's figure out why we exist.
Like once we pull the curtain away and see that the Wizard of Oz is actually just this fucking dude, it's less exciting.
Running like a simulation and like a big computer.
It's less exciting. So like
but then we can negotiate with him.
I didn't know we were bargaining, but
we could seize power from him. We could team up as humans.
If we found out about this Malaysian Airways thing, excuse me, then the reality would be far less sexy than the imagination.
What's your theory on it's flight MH370 from Malaysia? What's your theory on that plane? What happened to it?
I don't know. I think I, like everyone else, has just let it fade into every other news story that captivated our imagination for 10 minutes, and then we let it go.
Yeah, you're right. Um, yeah, I'm sorry to keep bringing up the plane. It's just, you
Don't need
know,
to apologise, mate. It's all good.
it is a fascinating
It's a
conundrum to me.
mystery, and I think
Yes.
that's what's fascinating about it is because we don't know.
Yeah, and
That's what's fascinating. If we did know, then the allure would be lost.
so something I always loved about Britain and England and is this aesthetic of mystery and like eerie. You have Jack the
Sherlock
Ripper,
Holmes,
Sherlock Holmes, Jack the Ripper.
Agatha
Like,
Christie.
yes, I love Agatha Christie. Oh my gosh. um, yeah. So you have mystery is built into the British culture, I would say. And another thing I really admire is the humor because that is totally baked into your culture. Humor. Have you seen the show Blackadder?
Yeah, of course.
Really? Okay, I just discovered this show like a few months ago. I'd
Rowan
never heard about it
Atkinson
before.
is a genius.
Yes.
Like a lot of
Oh
these
my
actors on the show are,
gosh.
but he's always held like a special place in my heart. He was Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Mr. Bean.
Yeah, of course, Mr.
Mr.
Bean.
Bean, Johnny English, like these guys. He's such an amazing physical. Like comedically, he has this physical ability
Yeah.
where he cannot say a word and be hilarious, and that is genius to me. But I
Yes.
think we have like good comedic instincts in the UK because, unlike other countries, for instance, so maybe in Australia in certain places, the humour might be a little bit more toned down, should I say? But in the UK, the weather sucks like a lot of the time. The weather's not
Yeah.
that good, so
It's always raining, right?
it's not always raining, but like the weather's just not that good. So we need to find ways to make our own fun. We can't just rely on the sun or going to the beach or
Yeah.
like go surfing or whatever. We need to find a way to find like meaning in our lives, and I think making one another laugh is a big part of that. And another thing just on that before I let you go on, I always
Yeah.
think that the best stand-up comedians are from America for sure.
Really?
For
Who are your
sure.
favorites?
I don't really. The thing is, I don't watch a lot of stand-up, but
Yeah.
whenever I do see stand-up, and I think that Americans are better like performers in that instinct, but
I love stand-up.
I reckon that people in Britain, the funniest people, or maybe this is a better way of putting it, in America, like the funniest people would be on stage, whereas the funniest people in the
Yeah.
UK would be in a pub.
Because it's more dry, the sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's like more. I totally agree with you. Like, that is an interesting observation. It's like, in America, it's sort of like a career to be a comedian, and it's like you're leaning into this character or whatever. But in England, the characters are so strong. Like, just the guy at the bar is like, if he went up on stage, he would fucking like destroy.
But he'd never go up on stage.
Yeah, he would never go up. That is funny. Something people have been talking about, in terms of England is Greg's. Greg's, like...
Greg's sausage rolls.
Should Greg's get a Michelin star or what?
Oh, and the rest, yeah. I think
Yeah.
Greg's is about as cultural as the UK gets. Like, it is
Yeah.
something that I miss whenever I'm away. The smell of a Greg's, it just can waft down an entire street. It's somewhat overhyped, but in like, yet again, like a funny way. Like, people will see Greg's as this thing of, like, they'll hold it up as like a great culinary export that we have in the country. I don't even know if it's left the UK, but we love it so much in England that it's become almost meta in the way that it's described.
Tell me about the Name a Gritter competition.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Apparently, it was like a news story in the UK. Sorry. Was the Liz Truss lettuce more productive than most of the prime ministers?
Liz Truss was just a car crash of the Prime Minister. Honestly, she was pathetic. I don't think there's anything more to say on that. She crashed the economy.
Really? And she was only
she
in
was
there
in it.
briefly, right?
She was in the office for about 10 minutes and then
Really?
packed her
Only-
bags and No.
Or are you
no,
exaggerating?
Yeah. But
Okay. A couple
not much
days.
longer than that.
Wow.
Nah, she was a disaster.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized corgi or 100 corgi-sized horses?
It's always the bigger one. I'd take my chances against the
Really?
smaller ones and just pick them off.
But it's 100 of them.
It's one big motherfucker. Like the gorilla question as well.
Okay, yeah, this is okay. Wait.
I'm never fighting that humongous gorilla.
So this is I love this debate, right? So 100 men versus one gorilla. One
gorilla.
like big alpha male gorilla like
That gorilla all day long.
how though? I don't get it. Like okay, but primally we're animals just like any other animal. So we have that instinct that would come out when we're in like a pack. It's like that mob mentality that you see, but I feel like we would just overwhelm the gorilla like you don't think so?
I think it would be like Superman, like breaking free of the rubble. I don't think so. I think the gorilla would be fucking people up one by one.
Yeah, because they're
It'd be
massive
like batting them off, and you're
and
dead.
explosive. Yeah,
You're
and they have a
knocked out
thick
or dead.
hide. Like you can't really stab one because their hide is so thick, and it's like they're so muscular and it's like their muscles like so tight knots, like so compressed, and like they're so explosive. Their power, a gorilla could really do damage. But I think we could if it was like a life or death, like there's no running, then and we were all in a cage with the gorilla, I think we could take 100 guys because just in terms of
I'll
numbers
go with the
and
optimistic
weight-wise,
outlook. I'll trust you.
100%. So a gorilla versus 100 men. How would you convince the first men to say you're the leader of a group of 100 men and we're in like caveman times, and there's a gorilla who's decided he has a vendetta against the tribe, and you're the elder man. How are you gonna convince the first man to approach the gorilla? Like because pretty much always the first couple guys that go near it are gonna get very
tell him
hurt.
he's a Republican. That usually
Tell
works
him
in your country. That usually works.
What? I don't get the joke.
Didn't land, did it? I was saying you basically just need to. It's like divide and conquer. Just tell him that he thinks differently to you.
Okay, so in order to, I still don't get it. I'm sorry. Wait, let me try
So
to think.
you asked, right? Now I'm having to explain the joke. Awful.
No. I'm sorry.
You asked. How would you convince the guy to?
Yeah, because they're gonna die.
Because they're gonna die. But yeah, just tell him that you're fighting for something.
Okay.
And that is that he thinks differently to you.
That's crazy. Yeah. I always ask that question. I know that you're a busy man, and I'll try to wrap it up. But I wanted to ask one more question, or maybe two more, if you'll let me.
Sure.
So one question I always tend to ask people when they come on the pod, it revolves around the space kind of idea. If I came to you today with a ticket to go to outer space for free, just one ride up into the outer atmosphere and then back, would you accept?
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. You're the first guest to say yes to that question.
I'd love the view.
Yeah, I would too. And Harry, it's gonna happen in our lifetime. Like, just think about it like this, right? Like, when they made the first personal computers in the 60s or late 50s or whatever, only the very wealthy could afford them. Only a research institute or university or a business or whatever, and the super wealthy. Right now, and anyone can get a personal computer, like a cheap one, anyone. So it's like, right now, the super wealthy are going into space for fun. Like, we just saw Katy Perry go to space. Like, how random is that? So in a few years down the line, literally anyone will be able to go to space, like, for cheap. It'll probably be like comparable to going on a vacation or an airline ticket, like just going to, or an amusement park ride. Eventually it will be cheaper and cheaper, just like everything gets cheaper in terms of the new tech. So like, we will fucking go to base, Harry, like in our lifetime.
Let's go.
It's so crazy to think about.
I agree.
I can't wait.
I think it'll get there. That's a nice way of, like, thinking about it. It's only natural that we'll eventually get to that point where it becomes normal. Hopefully.
That's crazy.
I want to see what it looks like from up there.
Yeah, and so I'm convinced that we'll be able to, actually break the speed of light, but that's a whole other tangent. It has to do with like quantum physics, but
that's another podcast.
I see a potential where we could be expanding all throughout the universe. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Mars. So I do think that we will, set up a sort of base on Mars, and eventually it will turn to a city, and maybe potentially we'll do the same thing on the moon as well. Would you go to Mars for a week as a tourist?
Sure, like why not? It's just a week.
Yeah, that would be fire. But it would be risky to be one of the first people to go.
No, not one of the first. I wouldn't be one of the first. I want it risk-free.
Oh, I just signed your name. Because you said, yeah.
I didn't.
I signed your name on the waiver.
Okay, I'll take you to court.
Okay, no. I'm kidding. Are there any what's your message just to anyone out there struggling or who needs some advice? Because a lot of my audience has been mentioning that they appreciate how it's sort of like a supportive space. So what's your message? Because you're a very supportive person too, and you're a great friend, I would say, first and foremost. But what's your message to people out there who are struggling, who need a little bit of a pep talk right now?
It's a lovely way to finish. I think the message would always be like what I tried to tell myself when I was in my darkest moments, and that's just be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And I do think that the rest will fall into place, but it all starts with kindness.
I think you're totally right about that. That's a wonderful way to wrap it up. Harry, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been the 14th episode of I Think. I'm going to stop the recording in 3, 2, 1.